Hello and welcome to this week's video. My name is Anuska Taylor. It's so great to have you here. And this week's video is all about, are you ready for vocal success? And specifically, I want to talk today about the unspoken and unseen challenges of voice transformation. And before I start, I just want to clarify what I mean by voice transformation, because it's going to vary from voice coach to voice coach. So when I work with a client, I am teaching you to free your voice, to free your natural voice, meaning I'm not trying to give you a new accent. I'm not trying to take your accent away. This isn't elocution lessons. This is accent training. There's people you can go to for that kind of thing. I am here to help you free your voice. Now, the challenge is often we don't realize our voice isn't free because we think it's just the way it is. We have normalized the way our voice sounds. We've even normalized how it feels to the point we don't even really feel it anymore. Well, we may have never felt it particularly. So we have no real kinesthetic awareness of our voice at all. So when I work with a new client, I'm obviously hearing things in their voice when they're speaking to me. And I will deliberately ask questions where I'm hearing some constriction, and I might say to them, do you feel any tension or constriction or limitation in your neck or your jaw or your tongue or wherever the place is that I'm hearing it? And more often than not, they will say no, because it's become so normalized. The habits are so normal. However, then when we start doing the work to really free their voice, then they're like, I get it. Now I feel the difference. And the thing is, when it's normalized, you stop feeling it after a while. So this is why it's so tricky, because often we don't even realize our voice isn't free. But if we have any sort of constriction or limitation on our voice, then the chances are it's not free. And obviously, as I say, I can usually hear it in a voice. And my job is really to help you start to become more attuned to your voice so you can start to feel it, and then you can start to make changes. So with that in mind, when people come for voice coaching, they are normally looking in some shape or form to sound or feel more confident. Now, that can look different for different people. For one person, that might be they want to learn to project more powerfully. For another person, that might be they just don't want to keep losing their voice on a regular basis, or their voice feels very tired or croaky or raspy. For another person, it might be that they actually want to articulate more clearly, but it can show up in different ways. But the ultimate result is they want to sound and feel more confident. So what's really interesting to me about this is that the voice forms part of our persona. So the voice forms part of the face we show to the world. And we use our voice to fit in the world. We use our voice to help us adapt, for people to like us, to actually get our needs met. And there's nothing wrong with that, apart from when it starts to really limit us. So then when you go along and you see someone like myself that you want to help actually start to develop your voice, you're going to come up against some kind of resistance to change. Because if your voice is part of your persona, this persona has been created consciously, but most likely unconsciously, to help you fit in. So then when you're going to try and change this persona, because as you change your voice, your persona changes, there's going to be some resistance that shows up. And this is the unspoken element of voice transformation. And I see this all the time. Now, people don't necessarily notice it at the beginning, because usually at the beginning I'm easing them into it. I'm just getting them kind of familiar with their voice, and we're starting to kind of wake things up and open things up. But as the weeks progress and they start to really embody some of the changes and they start to go into the real world and use their voice, that's when they start to feel really challenged by this change. And I've had people that don't tell their family that they're doing voice coaching because they're worried what they'll think. I've had people that are worried what colleagues at work will think. I've had people that don't want to sound too expressive because they don't want to draw too much attention to themselves. So it's really interesting. So they go into voice coaching wanting more confidence, wanting more expression, wanting to sound more dynamic. But actually, when they get the voice that is actually capable of doing this, all the fear, all the resistance starts to show up. And this is, I think, if you're not aware of this, it can really pull you back. Because one of the big things I notice is people don't practice. They get busy. They suddenly start, or they'll practice things that don't really do much to change the voice or to maintain that voice. They'll do things that are not particularly challenging. So there'll be ways that we show up. There'll be ways that we kind of hold the voice back. And this is why it's so important that we do this. And the example I was reading earlier in this book was a boy that had done some voice coaching. And actually he went to school and his classmates said, "Who do you think you are? Why is your voice different?" So it's one of those things we have to be aware that as our voice changes, that is going to potentially challenge people around us, maybe family, maybe friends, maybe peers, but more likely it's going to be challenging you, that you are perhaps going to be more sensitive or concerned by what people think. Now, I think the important thing then to remember is you're not changing your voice, to sound like someone else. This is who you always were. The old voice wasn't really who you were. That was the shut down. That was the let me hide behind my voice. This is actually the real you. But it can be threatening for the people around us. So I think it's really important that when you embark on the voice coaching journey, that you just prepare yourself for this, that you are going to feel challenged and people around you may feel challenged as well, because it's a big threat to people around us as we change, particularly when we're growing and we're stepping into our true abundant selves. It can be very challenging for the people around us when they're used to us being a particular way. So if I took the example, and I've worked with many people in this who fit this kind of category, so to speak, perhaps you have a very sort of gentle, quiet voice, and you know that voice, there's nothing wrong with that voice, but it serves you in a very small way in your life. And maybe at work, you want more authority. You want to be able to present with more confidence and more authority and more power in your voice. So that weak, quiet voice isn't really going to serve you. You can imagine, though, that weak, quiet voice has protected you in some way. There's a reason why you created that vocal habit in the first place. And so as you step into creating more strength and power in your voice, people are going to notice. They may or may not say something to you, but they're going to notice because your voice is changing. And not only is your voice changing, but probably your energy is changing. The way you show up more broadly is changing. So I think it's not to actually put you off doing voice coaching. It's actually just to expect it. Expect to feel challenged, most likely 100% coming from yourself. That actually probably the people around you probably think your voice just sounds great, but you might feel concerned that maybe it's too over the top or too expressive or too loud or whatever it is. But actually that this is your true voice. And the voice that's constricted and limited is not your true voice. So I think I just wanted to leave you with that. And it's so fascinating, and it's not something that people really talk about, but it can really hold you back from continuing to move through the process and not allowing, if someone does make a comment or you do feel like, oh no, that's too much, I'm too much, that you don't pull yourself back. Because if you pull yourself back, you will stop practicing, and then eventually you'll just go back to your old habits. So this is so important. So thank you so much for watching. I hope that you found this useful. Please do like, comment, subscribe. I'm always interested to hear your comments. If you have any questions, also please post them below. But until next time, I will see you on my next video next week.